Big juice alert! Wow, with Bitcoin's monthly candle closing yesterday, have we now also cemented a double bottom on the weekly similar to the last time Bitcoin was at these levels? In addition, crossing a very important 21 and 20 monthly moving average you can see here on this pink line. Is there evidence that we could be surging higher from here on out? And before that happens, could we see a retracement back to the $7,000 range? Bitcoin is now 3 days above the 6-year structural line. Again, guys, absolutely crucial. We have to take a look at that because there's a lot of things going on with the charts pointing to this and how important it is. And as well, we're finding some descending support right now here, guys. We added this line as of like the 13th of these ascending lines, guys. Absolutely critical. We'll take a look at that. And on the weekly, we mentioned this about 2 days ago, but this crucial MACD cross, what does this mean? Will we see large amounts of green like we've seen in the past, guys? Will it happen again? And big juice alert. Could we see a $10,000 plus Bitcoin by the end of this new month, guys? 31 days. Could we be seeing that the final week or two of May? Let's get juicing. Wow, what's going on, everyone? Happy May 1st, everyone out here, 2020. A lot of exciting things coming up on the agenda, guys. Very crucial, important stuff. Could Bitcoin be initiating some of the best 8 months in Bitcoin's history for the remainder of this year, guys? So much to get into. There's so many things, especially on the bigger time frames. But with that being said, when you look on the bigger time frames, it's important to note that there is short-term volatility that it overlooks. It just means the overall trend is incredibly strong. We can't wait to get into detail with you on a few different charts. It's absolutely wild. And as well, you guys, we will be announcing the winner for this bad boy in this video. And if you want to enter for this one, make sure to leave a comment below, hit the like, subscribes, turn on the dings, hit the comments. And as well, guys, if you're located pretty far away from me, we just send a Bitcoin instead, which is what we did for the winner 2 days ago. And guys, absolute big juice alert. Make sure, if you haven't already, hit the pinned comment, join the Discord. A lot of cool trading talk and a lot of useful information. It's been up for only a few days now. Have almost 500 members just in the last few days. So much awesome stuff, guys. Very cool. Wow, now let's start sipping that juice, guys. So much cool stuff to get into. I almost don't even know which chart to start on, but let's actually start on this one. So this is the weekly chart here on Bitstamp. This is critical. So the article that I'm going to go over with you, there's some absolutely amazing stuff. This is a very beefy, chunky article. So many important things. We have some very bullish people's takes and some very bearish, but guys, you're going to be shocked with some of the bearish takes because they're barely even bearish. Even the bearish takes in this article are not even that crazy. The lowest for a really bad bear scenario is like the high $6,000 range. So we'll get into that here, but they mentioned this MACD that I mentioned a few days ago as well, where we have this cross right here, and we already see a little teeny weeny little green forming right here. So I think this could actually be a very bullish sign when we combine that with about 10 other things, a million other things on these weekly charts. For the rest of the weekly chart, I actually want to switch to this chart. So when we had the last double bottom, okay, leading out of the bear market into an absolutely explosive rally that we've never seen before in any market, which culminated at the end of 2017, beginning of 2018 for Bitcoin and altcoins, guys. We had a double bottom, and what's interesting enough is we had an initial bottom right here around 165 US dollars, and then a few months later, we actually had a second bottom at about $200. Now, interestingly enough, the difference between the first bottom and the second bottom was right around 20%. So what that means is there was a bottom, and then there was a second bottom, a higher low, okay, 20% higher than the initial bottom. Here we have our first bottom, which is around that $3,100 mark that we had as recently as November of 2018. And now this second seeming bottom that we have gotten, guys, absolutely explosive volume right here. This is a better illustration here for the explosive volume here. Okay, this was the recent one that we saw, but as well, this one right here, where's the next highest one here? Right here, which was the first one back in November of 2018. And really the only ones higher than that were right here, which were literally telling us, oh wait, we've hit the top right around like that 20, between 15K and 20K. So that's what these candles are. This one was our first bottom around 3,000 in late 2018. And this was our second one back in March, just about 2 months ago. Well, it's already been 2 months since we hit, since we went down to the $3,000 range. That's crazy. So, wow. So what's interesting here, guys, so what my point was, we had two bottoms, And I think that's a really healthy sign in general. We have a bottom on these macro time frames. This is the weekly. I actually see it on the two week as well. You can see it actually illustrated nice here, but I want to put it back to, you know what, we'll just keep it on the 2 week. 20% difference as well. Same thing here as this last bottom. We had an initial low, and then about 20% higher was the second one. And then we have this initial low, and right here, the second one, about 20% higher than that one. So to me, I think that's a really, really important sign. And even on the 2 week, what I think is interesting here is we're actually still above that, but on the weekly, I think this is the more important and more valid one. The 21 week instead of the 21 2 week. It's kind of weird. The 21 week, we are above this 21 week moving average, which is absolutely important. Right around the 7,800 is where that is. And that's why we think a really good level of support moving down if we get a pullback, because most likely we will get a pullback within the next week or so, because we just had a crazy rally. I think overall this momentum is pushing us up, but I think it would make a lot of sense if we had a pullback in the short term. Okay, we're talking like a week or two from now. I think the 7,800 would be perfect, and that lines up with a million different things on these one-day charts, but specifically on the weekly, that's why it's so important there as well. The macro time frames, the bigger time frames, higher time frames are always more important than the smaller time frames. Now, what I think is really important here as well, guys, so this is something I've been talking about exclusively for a while, this 6-year trend. I love this. So last time we really, obviously we plummeted through it. We were trading here for a few days back right before the massive crash to down to like the 3K region about 2 months ago now. Before that, the only time we touched it was at the very, very bottom right here. What was the price then? About 6,500 at the time, which was where the head was formed of the inverse head and shoulders that broke out and plummeted and jumped us like 5,000 or 4,000 US dollars there. And then the times before that, the only times it touched there was the ascending triangle here that broke us up to like 14, 15K back in the summer of 2019. So, and again, guys, we could even zoom out even further. I mean, this thing has, look at this. It's still touching all the way back in the year 2015. So really important. So I personally still think this is huge that we're above this. Again, like I said in the last video, if in the short term we do get a small rejection and go below it, that wouldn't even be necessarily too bad. I think overall, though, it would be the best case if we just continue to hold there. But let's say we did get a pullback down to that 78. A lot of people would be panicking. And I want to say this now. A lot of people would be panicking and going crazy, but that would not be the end of the world. We could still see, so much structure is still put in. We could actually even go down to the low 7,000s and this still be bullish. Look at this currently actually. Where is the point of control in the most recent time right here? It's right around the 7,100, right around here, which is also kind of where the shoulders and in between the middle of the inverse head and shoulders were the most traded area right there. And the last thing I want to point on these charts before we get into something really, really important here is just this. The Bitcoin chart, these descending lines, this is a descending channel really that we've been in since we've turned bearish after that pump in the summer of 2019, culminating in about June, very last few days of June 2019 here. Been going down basically ever since. We've been in this channel ever since. Now, this is the most important of the entire market because if we break this white line, then we're setting higher highs. Okay, so far we've been setting lower highs. Okay, first one back here, second one, third one. Now, these are all really important pumps. This was the pump of the summer of 2019 up to about 14K. This was the top of the entire market, all-time highs, 20K. And then this one right here was the most parabolic of our last run where that inverse head and shoulders broke out to back in the middle of February, right around the 10.5K. So 10,500 is where that one was. Again, if we would break this, guys, this would be setting a first higher high. So that would be absolutely nuts. Currently, we're only a few $1,000s away from it, but I don't think it's going to happen this week. That's why we're going to jump into this article that shows some evidence that it could actually very well be coming at the end of this month, which would be crazy. There's no doubt in my mind and many people's minds that the further we go on to this year, the more and more likely it is to be bullish, as opposed to the last 2 years where basically it was more and more bearish throughout the entire year. Okay, we're now, in my opinion, at the very, very, very early stages of what is going to be a long 2 to 3 year bull market, potentially the likes of which nobody has ever seen. Absolutely huge. Now let's jump into this absolutely amazing. I want to give a shout out here to Joseph Young, yet again, absolutely killing it with these amazing articles here on Cointelegraph. Let's jump in. I have some highlighted points that I want to show you. So market data indicates that less than 2 weeks before the halving, the structure of the crypto market has shifted from being driven by futures exchanges to spot trading platforms. We covered this in the last video. This is a healthy transition from over-leveraged trades to organic spot trades, and they can build a very strong foundation for a bull rally. Okay, skip down a little bit. The narrative around the halving could actually be overplayed. So we're going to inject a little bit of bearishness, a little bit of, bring us down a little bit right here, because the halvings that occurred in 2012 and 2016's halvings, Bitcoin's price did not react significantly until, months after, sometimes up to almost a year after the halving before it went crazy. However, the one thing that I want to add to this is that nobody really cared. For the most part, nobody cared about the halving in 2016, and barely anybody even knew about Bitcoin back in 2012. So it is, first of all, it's a completely different environment, and to think that things will not change at all as we move throughout time. Same thing goes for the charts. I think there's some really good consistencies between the last charts, but to think that it's going to repeat exactly is just kind of silly, I think. And to think that we would have to wait maybe 6 to 8 months after this halving to see some bullish momentum, I think there could definitely be some flaws in that thinking, considering how different the environment is. Everybody involved in Bitcoin knows the halving is less than 10 days away, okay? Huge. So in 2 previous halvings, Bitcoin showed strength by surging to within 40% of the then all-time high levels. In each of these prior events, Bitcoin carried on upwards for over a year and then a year and a half, reaching all-time highs along the way. Bitcoin looks to be starting the current track actually as of right now, according to this. The medium-term trend of Bitcoin is optimistic. So T's here, the trader, emphasized retests of lower support levels are unavoidable. I agree with that. I think we're going to see pullbacks here. I mean, you don't just go up forever. He's saying here, as long as we remain above the $7,100 support level and avoid a downturn to the mid 6,000s, okay, is very bullish. And I agree with that. That makes a lot of sense. And he says, if we can do that a target of 10.6, which would break this chart that we showed you here, which would break this chart, okay? We would break this if that happened. He's saying that if we can hold the 71, then we could see that by May, okay? We just started May. This is the very first day of May. And if that holds, within the next 31 days, we could be seeing a retest of that, guys. And I absolutely think that's the case. There's never been more hype around a halving, more optimism, and more people euphoric about the future of Bitcoin than there is right now. So then he talks about the MACD, which I actually talked about in the other video, and actually this video, I mentioned that earlier. He talks about some resistances here around the 9,200, 10,400, and 11.4. Granted, the higher you get, the less and less resistance there is, because there's less and less traded volume up there. Especially after breaking 10.5, you completely break that triangle, okay? After you break that, it completely goes nuts, I think. Okay, I think if we even break 10K, it'll be nuts. But to pretty much finish it off, he says, I don't think it's likely to ever see 4,000 to 5,000 ever again, especially after the halving. However, a healthy retrace seems reasonable. And again, he points to the 200 week, okay, something we talk about. But then there's some bearishness. And the only thing I really want to cover there is that they're basically calling for 6.8, 6.4 in their bearish targets there. But guys, let's say this. We'll just throw out a crazy scenario, which I don't think is likely. I think it's the least likely right now. If we would break like the 6.5, then maybe we would still be in an extended bear market, which again, guys, I just don't think makes the most sense. The only way that could ever be a reality, in my opinion, is if somehow the global markets, everything around the world, everything with Bitcoin included, traditional finance, literally everything, if that all just completely collapsed. Okay, that's the only way I think that could happen. So I just want to throw that out there, because technically it's not impossible, just in my opinion, extremely improbable. But yeah, it ends the article here. The noticeable increase in demand for Bitcoin shown by a massive rise in spot volume and institutional interest. Okay, because spot volume can also still include institutional interest. I got some comments about that. Institutions can still be buying Bitcoin, and that doesn't make it invalid there. May serve as a proper basis for a long-lasting rally. Despite the 163 price increase since 3,600 about 2 months ago, a continuation of a bullish trend for Bitcoin cannot be ruled out. So guys, we're going to copy the link from yesterday's video. Okay, we're going to enter this here, get the YouTube comments. Let's see. If it says 241, I'm going to flip out. Okay, cool. All right, cool, because it's been saying 241 for like the last 2 or 3 giveaways. This time it says 359. Now let's pick the winner. No way. Action Node Malaysia says above 10K by next week. So if you're in Malaysia, Action Node Malaysia, let me know and I'll send you Bitcoin, because honestly, if I sent you this ledger, it would probably take you weeks to receive this, and you would get it much faster if you just bought the ledger with the Bitcoin that I can send you, because the ledgers are actually manufactured in France. That's where they ship out of, for anybody wondering, from the official site where we get them. But wow, very cool. Awesome way to end the video. Above 10K by next week. I'll say above 10K by next month, okay? By the end of this month. So guys, thanks so much for watching. Make sure to go to the pinned comments in the description and join the Discord community. Wow, let's grow this.